Good morning and welcome to Ask the Security Guy. I am your host, Holly Magnuson, and welcome to episode number 65, recorded live on February 3rd, 2021. I am joined here today with Sean Corman, and we have some guests that he'll introduce in just a moment. But for the moment, I want to just remind everyone, if you have any questions, please use the chat during this session. If you are watching this later and you have questions, you can email those to iso@apu.edu. We'd love it if you liked the show. Give us a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe because that way you will know anytime we go live. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Sean, to introduce our guest and what we're talking about today.
Sure. Well, we have some auspicious guests today. Erin Dibble, could you introduce yourself and a little bit of your background and what you do?
Sure, yeah. I'm Erin Dibble. As Sean said, I work with our awesome engineering team here at Azusa Pacific University, and my title is Director of Operations Support. We do everything that you never get to see, servers, networks, storage, databases, all that kind of stuff. So.
All the stuff that makes things work that nobody ever knows exists.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And Michael McDonald, who I have known for a very long time.
Yeah, just a wee bit. Hello, everyone. My name is Michael McDonald. I am a member of this engineering team that works underneath Erin Dibble. I am an IT support administrator. I'm also an AWS Solutions Architect Associate.
Fantastic. And for our viewers, y'all know me. So after 7 years, I would hope so. So today we wanted to talk a little bit about a fairly new piece of functionality in Gmail called confidential mode. Sounds fantastic. It's like candy for a security guy, except, well, I'm feeling like there's improvement, but it's not all the way there. So Michael, could you walk us through what confidential mode is supposed to be able to do for us and what visions of grandeur I'm supposed to have instead of the ones I do have?
Absolutely. So like you mentioned before, it's kind of like your second favorite candy bar. Like it'll do in a pinch, but it's not the one that you really wanted. So this feature actually has two key parts. The first part is what's called an expiration date. Okay. And the second part is it has the ability to use text SMS messages to verify the identity of the person that is receiving the message. So I'll talk about the first one first, of course, the expiration date. So what that does is it gives you the ability when you're sending an email to set basically a kill switch for that email. So that email will only be available until the date and time that you specify. That's a pretty good feature. One of the other things that I especially like is that it also gives you the ability to revoke access to a message that you've sent. I know none of us have ever sent an email that we wish we could take back, right? That never happens. With that, there's a couple of things that we should talk about. It also has some added features, and the added features are actually restrictions. So these restrictions are when you send an email with an expiration date or with the confidential mode enabled, it does not allow the person who receives the email to forward, copy. Like you said, Sean, it definitely is right on the right vein of things where it should be, but so close.
Not quite there.
Not quite there. The second part is the text message ID verification. So what this does is it allows you to put in a phone number for the end user, the person who is receiving the email, and they will receive a text message at that number. And what that does is that adds another layer of identification verification. So it's like, hey, if nothing else, you sent the email to this person's email address, and they respond to the text message at a number that you know that they own. Okay. So that kind of gives you that assurance that it is the right person who's receiving the email.
So it's not just pulling out your contact information. You actually have to put in a number when you turn on that feature?
Every time.
Okay. Okay.
It's probably worth noting too that phone number needs to be a number that can receive text messages or SMS messages, as it's labeled in Google when you actually go and do it. So if you were to use like a landline or something like that that can't receive text messages, then
Well, and I've noticed that some internet phone systems people that are using, or internet phone numbers people are using, not all of them can receive text messages or text messages with links. So I guess that could be a breaking point for this too.
Yeah.
I don't think that it sends an actual link, but it sends a PIN identification number.
Okay.
The email has a link. And with that link, it will actually display the last 2 digits of the phone number that you specified for the confidential email.
Okay. Okay. Great. So, I mean, it sounds promising. It sounds like it's heading in the right direction. Google, I mean, let's face it, this is kind of what they do. They roll out something that's sort of there, and then they keep improving it over time. So that's exciting. And of course, as I was, reading with it and playing with it and poking and prodding at it, I came across some things, and Google's documentation confirms all this. There are some things that confidential mode can't prevent or stop. So if you're expecting it to be the magic bullet, well, it's not. So, and for instance, it can't prevent a recipient from taking a screenshot or a photo of your messages or attachments. So what, like Michael was talking about, you can't forward it, you can restrict printing, you can restrict copying, all of that. Well, it doesn't stop screenshots, it doesn't stop, other kinds of tools like that. And then there's also malicious tools out there that can still circumvent the controls and allow you to download the content or the attachments or both. So it's a great step in the right direction. And there's some really cool features that come with that. But it's not, I wouldn't ever feel comfortable saying it's, hey, send your social security number in email now, go for it. May the Schwartz be with you. I'm just not there. Aaron, what about usage? I mean, what does this look like?
Hey, this is the easy stuff. You don't need to do anything to your Gmail. In your web browser where you look at your Gmail, you will see a clock and lock icon, or a lock and clock icon, whatever suits you. That'll be at the very bottom of your email editing window that pops up, where you would have, you want to italicize something, or you want to bold something, or you want to delay send. That little bar at the bottom, you'll see a clock and lock icon. When you click on that, you'll be presented with those 2 options that Michael mentioned, the time option and the SMS or text message option. And then you just compose your email and send. And I'd highly encourage experimenting. Try it out. Send something to yourself. Send it to a colleague. Try it out. It's really simple and easy to use.
Yeah. So I noticed it's turned on for personal Gmail accounts as well as institutional like ours.
Yeah.
So I guess it works even if you're emailing somebody at gmail.com.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, is every country in the world covered by this?
No, you can only use the SMS passcodes in the Americas, Europe, Australia, and Asia, like India, Korea, and Japan. I'm sure that Google will work with other locations and stuff, but I mean, it's pretty comprehensive.
Yeah.
So Antarctica is not on the list yet, so.
Well, I know the penguins are going to be really irritated. Especially, Linux penguin, whatever. Yeah, geek humor of the day. So now with what it can do and the usage functionality, how are you guys feeling about this? Is this something that we should be encouraging our users to go ahead and try out, or should we wait? What are your thoughts on that?
I would definitely encourage playing with it. I mean, it definitely is a step in the right direction. Again, the analogy of it's my second favorite candy bar for security purposes fits. Google is notorious for putting out a minimal viable product and then adding to it to make it something worthwhile.
Yeah.
And I think this is just another example of that.
Okay.
I believe that they will continue to develop this further and hopefully get it to the point where someone like you, Mr. Corman, would sign off on it. But I definitely think it is a step in the right direction. I think it is definitely something worth exploring, especially for, not exactly, ultra sensitive information, but definitely adds another layer of security that might give some assurance.
Right.
Yeah, especially in this remote context where, I'm thinking about end of year stuff that I need to take care of, and I don't necessarily just want to email documents necessarily, but if I have certain restrictions, given some of our local guidelines and stuff with getting in contact with people, this makes me feel a little better that, it's kind of like locking the front door. It doesn't mean that there's no other way to get into the house, but it's a layer of security that I think helps. It's a step in the right direction.
Yeah. And that's, I agree. I mean, I'm getting a sense like it is a solid step in the right direction. They haven't reached the destination yet.
Sure. Yeah.
But at least there's movement. And let's face it, email security has been a thing that's just been a catchphrase for a couple decades now. But to be fair, email was never designed to be secure. I mean, the original implementation of email did not have security in mind. It was all about robust delivery.
Yeah.
Same as the original internet, DARPANET. It was, how do you get packets from one side of the world to the other reliably in a fault-tolerant way? Well, email had that same principle in mind. Security was kind of, oh yeah, we'll tack that on later, which is unfortunately true of so many things. And we keep pushing and hoping that as products are developed, they will build in security from the start as part of its core architecture. But security is inconvenient.
Yeah.
And it takes time to develop that. And we're in such a rapid cycle of development of so many products now that this old problem of develop it first and then secure it later still exists.
Yeah.
So I got to say, I like that Google is kind of taking the bull by the horns here and saying, yeah, we know it's not everything. We know it's not the whole kitchen sink. It's more like a little toaster oven on the living room floor. But still, it's a toaster oven, and that you didn't have before.
Yeah.
Well,
Sean, what are your thoughts thinking of, speaking of security and the steps that it needs to take? I mean, SMS is a nice feature to have a little like tokens, series of digits that come on your phone.
Right.
What are your thoughts around that feature of this? Is that something that's really solid, or what are the risks associated there? Yeah.
So, SMS security codes, it was another one of those low-hanging fruit type of things. Banks use them, credit card companies use them. They're really easy to implement. They're really easy to get out there, but they're not super secure, because text messages can be hijacked. They can be, your phone number can be cloned, and now somebody else is receiving the same codes you are, or responding as you, worse, which you'll never see. So the SMS side of the house isn't secure, but layering these things in, we talk about defense in depth and security. It's a catchphrase, right? What it means is you add these little layers of stuff, and you just keep adding the little layers. They don't have to be perfect. Like SMS, most of the time they're flawed. And by themselves provide almost nothing. But when you start stacking them up, you get something that's pretty annoying for a hacker to try to get through. So I would never consider SMS to be total security. There are better ways to handle one-time codes. And those are increasingly being offered by the banks and other financial institutions and other organizations as well. But SMS, at least, is a good starting point.
Yeah. It's like multiple locks on the door.
Exactly. I really appreciated your comment, Michael, about minimal viable product. That's so much classier than what I was thinking, half-baked. But I really enjoy being in the background today and listening to this conversation. But, a couple of things came to mind. And those who are watching, you can go ahead and ask questions as well. But, okay, we got this additional level of security. Does it make it safe then for me to email passwords or other confidential type of information?
So,
go ahead, Sean.
Go ahead. No.
I was going to say, going back to the layered security, I always think of security and IT as being the onion. And the more layers that you add to the onion, the more safe you'll be. There already are some security implementations in place with Google as far as transmission-wise and so forth. I think this is just another layer that helps. I agree with Sean. I'm not ready to send my social security number using this method. I will say, though, that it definitely is helpful having another layer to security and sending sensitive information, not top secret level, but sensitive information.
Yeah. I think I could probably make this real simple for people. If it's data that would trigger us to have to do breach reporting, then just don't.
It's another episode coming up on what would be breach level information.
Yeah, I know it sounds simple, but it's not, because even though, and trust me, I've looked at the breach notification laws in all 50 states. And California actually does really the best job of defining a very complex topic, but it's still complicated. Bottom line is, any data that can be used to uniquely identify an individual, it's P2 data, and don't send it an email, even with this new mode.
Now,
if it's one person or 1,000, don't do it.
Yeah, you talked a little bit about this, but I think dig a little deeper on the ability to unsend with confidentiality mode. Can you do that?
Aaron, Michael?
Sure, I'll jump in if Aaron. So you have the ability to revoke access. And it doesn't actually unsend the email, but what it does do is it removes the ability for the recipient to actually view the email itself. They can see they have an email, they can see that it was sent confidentially. However, they can't view the content.
Okay.
Cool.
So if you sent that email that you really, really, really wish you'd never sent, but you at least put the expiration date on it, you can pseudo kill it.
And remove the subject line. Just note that.
Oh, the subject line is still visible?
Correct.
Oh, so if you send an email saying "I hate your guts" and then the contents, that subject line is still visible.
Correct.
It's a bad idea.
So proceed with caution there.
So, isn't the text code for the security good enough for all kinds of secure emails? You've kind of also addressed the flaws there, but let's dig a little deeper into the SMS.
Yeah, I'll speak to that one. No.
Very simply, no, it's not enough.
Yeah. So there's a couple things I'm looking for before I will ever feel comfortable sending confidential information over email. One is a robust encryption technology that actually works. The encryption tools that exist for email right now, the good ones are really complicated to use. The bad ones, well, they're bad ones for a reason. They just don't work. They're easy and they don't work, or they're easily reverse engineered. But the SMS text codes, like we were saying, even though I don't think it's suitable for sending, confidential information for the university or for your personal use, it is, if you want to email, pictures of your kids to some, that, and you're uncomfortable sharing that kind of information publicly, it would be a way to do that. Yeah. I know increasingly there's a lot of attraction out there for people to be really thoughtful about what information they post about their families and their whereabouts. Yeah. And we've talked about that in some of our older episodes, Holly, how to turn off geotagging on your photos and those kinds of things. And to also be careful, what pictures you frequently take, because the places can be geolocated just by the background geography. So, as you think about protecting your family and you're protecting your kids, I know a lot of people who are increasingly turning to email instead of posting it on social media. Sure. So this provides, I think, a great layer of just that additional layer of security, even there, because it works with and without Google. So if you're emailing somebody at Yahoo, which I don't know why you would, but okay, you still have the same level of control.
It's good. So with that, I think we will sign off. Again, if you have questions after the fact, you can contact us at ISO, my dyslexia kicking in there, ISO@apu.edu. Aaron, Michael, thank you so much for joining us today. It's great to have you, and hopefully we'll see you again. Any final thoughts, Sean?
No, I just wanted, again, echoing what you said, I wanted to thank Aaron and Michael for joining us today, and really we're looking forward to seeing how this feature evolves. Yeah. And I'm hopeful that in a few months we'll be back to talk about something new and exciting that they've done to make it even better.
Yeah. So with that, we'll say goodbye and have a great day.